Hey guys, welcome to the Game Precast, episode 6. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Game Awards, and as you can see, we made it through November. The beard is gone, so thankfully, I now look like a child again. So, Mike, what have you been playing this week? How's life been?
Life has been, 2020, but
That's accurate. Okay. That's about
uh, in terms of what I've been playing, well, I platinum Demon Souls on Thanksgiving. Finally
nice.
got that done, and it's definitely one of the best Souls games ever made. I mean, we already knew the original was, but this remake is, I'll tell you, this is better than Dark Souls 2, that pile of garbage. And it's definitely on par with DS1, I would say. I don't know about DS3 because it's still it's a bit dated in some areas. You can definitely tell it's aged, but at the same time, it's a beautiful new game, and Bluepoint did a phenomenal job, and I really want to get back into it again, even though I've 100% it. Besides that, I played a little bit of Final Fantasy VII Remake, got back into that a little bit, did a little bit of Ghost of Tsushima New Game Plus. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I can't really think of anything else. How about yourself?
Well, I played a little bit of Call of Duty. I was enjoying double XP, and then it crashed 3 times in an hour period. I don't know if
Yeah.
I should blame Xbox for that or if I should blame Call of Duty. I'm leaning towards blaming Call of Duty.
Yeah, I would blame them.
Yeah. So that was that. I had to stop playing it because I'm afraid of bricking my Xbox and then not being able to get another one. So, guess we're taking a break from COD for a little bit. And actually, because I was enjoying it, I was having fun. In Nuketown, the new map came out. It was actually decently enjoyable, and then it shit itself. Um, I beat the Fallout 76 DLC. It came out early. They accidentally released it a week in advance or like 10 days in advance or something like that.
Gotta
So
love
I
Bethesda.
played that around Thanksgiving time, and it was enjoyable. I mean, they've made another step in the right direction. It was smaller than Wastelanders, but it was still good. It added, some choice and consequence. Not a lot, but there's still a decent amount. They had a lot of instant areas, so you can have like conversations with NPCs and decide, oh, am I going to kill them or going to try to make a deal with them? And I mean, it was a step in the right direction. Brotherhood of Steel is back. They actually mentioned California and New Vegas and all that, which that was a shock. So they're not. I mean, New Vegas too. I'm waiting for it, or not just anything that is spin-off related. That'd be great. But overall, it was pretty good, and I know the second part of the expansion is supposed to come sometime in 2021. Hopefully, they can get around to doing that. And I'm excited to see what they can do with the game because it had a terrible launch, and it's getting a little bit better, just like No Man's Sky, and I'll be talking about No Man's Sky a little bit later in the episode. But yeah, I mean, it's been good, and Valhalla, once again, been grinding that. It's just such a long game, and I mean, I talked about it on last week's episode, and even I think the week before that we talked about Valhalla, so I don't want to dive into Valhalla again, but we're getting there. I mean, I've got, I think, 4 more regions left in the main world, and then 2 more kind of side areas, and then I got to go back to Norway to finish some mysteries, which are the side missions. But besides that, that's all I've been playing.
Yeah, I
So
haven't touched Valhalla in weeks. I do want to get back into it, but I just hit the Asgard part, and I was like, I'm bored. Kind of don't want to do all this, so haven't picked it back up. But I did play. I forgot to mention a little bit of Miles Morales this past week. I progressed a little bit further into the story.
yeah,
It's good. I mean, I don't like it as much as the 2018 Spider-Man game, but that's just really because the stakes were higher in that game. There's definitely more going on in the plot, and since this is cheaper and kind of like a standalone expansion, I kind of get why it's not on that level. But even so, it's still a really enjoyable game. Having a good time with it. But
now
other than that,
I
yeah.
saw something on Twitter about Miles Morales, and when you press like the middle button on your controller, that brings up that screen that has like all the little I don't want to say like
Widgets.
hints, but yeah, those little windows, and they tell you about like
Yeah.
all the achievements. Did you
Yeah.
know that you can click on the achievement and then it like fast travels you right to the location? Or if it's like one for a side
No,
mission, you can go on it and it directly fast travels you right to the location.
I did not know that.
Now that is because for me, I'm not like on a game like Spider-Man, I'm okay with traversing because they make it fun to go around the map and get collectibles and that. Like, it's actually enjoyable to do it. On a game like, let's say, Valhalla, for example, I'm dreading when I have to go, 1,000 meters or however they measure it, into the middle of nowhere just to go do a side mission. And, I mean, I'm just doing the side missions. If I wanted to go do all, like, the gold locations and all the other random locations to 100% the game, which I'm not doing, but if I wanted to do that, that would take so long just going off the beaten path, because, I mean, like I said, on games where it's fun to explore the world, sure, I'm fine with that. On games that actually fill their game with a lot of content, but on a game like Ubisoft, where you're just going over mountains that are just, copy and paste it, I'm not big on that. So if I had Valhalla, on PS5, where I could just do that, and I don't know if they, enabled that, if Ubisoft enabled it on the PS5, or if it's just first-party games that are taking advantage of that. But still, that's really cool for people who don't want to go spend an extra, 30, 40 hours just to get all these collectibles. And, But again, at the same time, I feel like it's going to hurt some games, like a game like Spider-Man, where it's fun to swing around the city to do it, and that you can just go, fast travel real quick, and then I'm done with it in, a few hours.
Well, I mean, you can still do that if you want to. It's not like they force you to take advantage of that. So, I mean, the people who still want to earn it the old-fashioned way can. Not a total loss.
Yeah. So, on that note, are you ready to hop into the Game Awards?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, just give me 1 second to write down the timestamp.
Yeah, well, we already discussed Game of the Year last week, but we can do a brief rehash if you want to. Just a little recap for anyone who missed out on. Well, honestly, it's probably better that you don't watch that part, because I was a little bit heated, a little bit annoyed, because I think I know it's going to win this category, and it shouldn't. But I'm calmer this day compared to last week, and I'm not going to get mad about it, because there's nothing I can do, I can only speak my mind. But I stand by what I said. If you know what I said, I stand by it.
Yes. Now, at the end of the day, this award show means nothing. I think Game Awards, I mean, you got how many critics from, you don't even know how many from IGN are on their panel and all that. There's a lot of panels that aren't even really gaming related. And I mean, if the game that you like doesn't win, it's not the end of the world. I mean, think about how small of, the percentage of gamers, majority of them aren't on Twitter, on YouTube, caring about, the Game Awards and all that. I mean, majority of them get their game, oh wow, it's fun, they have a great time with it, they enjoy it, and that's that. So, if a game wins Game of the Year, and you don't like that particular game, you don't need to go on Twitter and go tell Neil Druckmann to go off himself.
I wonder what game you could be referring to. I
wonder too. But on that note, let's get into the Game of the Year. And the nominees are Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing, and The Last of Us Part 2. Now, as we said before, we dived into this in the last episode. I went with The Last of Us Part 2 for the reason that even though I hated the narrative, I don't want to say everything about the story, but majority of the story, besides the flashback sections. But the name of the category is Game of the Year, and it says you got to recognize the game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. And I feel like it's unfair to just judge this, off the fact that, the narrative sucks. I hate what they did with the story, but because they did everything else with The Last of Us Part 2 was incredible, in my opinion. The accessibility settings, the graphics, the acting, the animations. So that's why I put it as my Game of the Year. Ghost of Tsushima was a great game that I loved. Very close second place there. And Michael added a little bit more on why he chose Ghost of Tsushima as his Game of the Year.
Well, like you said earlier, I don't think Neil Druckmann should off himself or anything like that, but he did make a god awful game, and
Yes.
I will say, for me, above all things, the most important aspect of a game is the narrative. Without, a cohesive story that makes sense, that brings the audience in, that makes the audience care about the characters, about the plot, it completely fails. I mean, you bring these characters that are beloved by players around the world that have absolutely adored The Last of Us 1 for the past 6, 7 years now. And we've had these two characters, Joel and Ellie in particular, their dynamic is what was so successful about the first game. And now you completely not even turn it on its head, you just dismiss that. Treat it like it's dirt, like it never even mattered, and then force these characters into roles that make no sense for these characters. I mean, if this game was The Last of Us 1, it would make sense, but it's not. It's a sequel. Not only is it a sequel, it's a direct sequel, and in that role, it completely and utterly fails. I mean, you have Joel playing the role of the old fool now. He was smart. He, he survived the apocalypse for a reason. He knew how to take care of himself. He knew how to survive. He knew what to say and what to do in certain situations, and just meeting some random person dressed in all black creeping outside of your camp that you've never seen before, not only do you save their life when you could have just walked away and avoid the situation entirely, you tell them your name and you tell them where you live, which makes no sense because even in the first game when Joel and Ellie are in the truck after they leave the town, Bill's town rather, um Joel rams a guy because he knows he's faking being injured. And he's just not the type of dude to trust like that. So that's just another example
Well, my defense
of
with that,
how.
and I know we've talked about this, so I just want to say it on the show, is that I think he's changed. He's been, behind walls, safe. If you read the notes in the game, you can see that they have barely had to kill any walkers, never mind enemies who are humans. So he's obviously changed in the, what is it, 4 years that he's been there, surviving behind the walls. I mean, when you go around his house, you can see he's taking up hobbies and stuff. So I think that's why that happens, and he's not just, I'm going to go kill these
He
people real
was
quick.
behind the safety of the walls in the first game in the beginning, living with the government. He was
But he
still
was still
that
going
guy.
out on runs and stuff.
Yeah, and
I
he
mean, he
still
was
was in
smuggling
Last
people
of Us
constantly,
2.
so.
He was still going out on runs in Last of Us 2 for a
Yeah, but
different
you were running into people
purpose.
when you went on smuggling runs out in Boston, right? It starts in Boston. I mean, it was
The first
constant.
one?
Yeah, the original one
Or
was in Boston, right? I
yeah.
mean, here in Wyoming, where they are, as you can see in the notes, they barely have any zombies running into because there's no humans out there. They're in the middle of fucking nowhere. So that's
Yeah.
my defense on that statement.
So
Just
you
playing
think
devil's
Joel became
advocate.
complacent. I refuse to believe the man that was introduced to this apocalyptic nightmare with his daughter being murdered in his arms. I refuse to believe he would just trust any random person after that. I refuse to believe it. It doesn't fit him. And the way he acted in the first game, through the entirety of it, he never showed being that careless. And Tommy acting like aloof and a fool kind of as well, like he's going back and forth between what he wants to do, and then he kind of pressures Ellie into going back in the
You
end,
see,
even
I'm
though
fine with
she
that point right
murdered.
there. I agree with that. I
No, yeah,
agree.
but then to go back and to not even finish the job is means the entire third act is a waste of time. It's pointless. It doesn't really mean anything. It's like, oh, you're ending the cycle of violence that Ellie was perpetuating. She wasn't the only one perpetuating it. Abby was too. It's not like she's this saint that everyone claims she is. She is a selfish person who ruined her ex-boyfriend's life and his fiance, I guess you could say, is her life. Turned on the people that took care of her and raised her in like a 48-hour time frame for two people she just randomly met, because now she all of a sudden has a sense of responsibility that she never felt before. And it's just really shit writing, especially when they use manipulative tactics to make the player hate Ellie more. Like, you
I agree
kill
with
way
that.
more dogs as Ellie, you're forced to kill a dog as Ellie. As a matter of fact, that's the only time you're forced to in the game, even though they said pre-release that you weren't. There's concept art of Ellie in areas of the game that Abby's in, so you were supposed to play as Ellie the whole time. And Neil Druckmann confirmed that Abby was supposed to die for 50% of development. That was the plan. And then he just switched the game all on its head. So I can't help but feel like there's some ulterior motive behind why they made this plot shift, and I don't really know why. I can only speculate, and I'm not going to speculate on here because that's not what we're here to do. But the game that we got, narrative-wise, is abysmal. Doesn't really make any sense. It's very forced. and I don't think it deserves Game of the Year for that reason. Sure, it looks nice, but a shiny pile of crap is still a pile of crap. That's what I like to say. But I vote for Ghost of Tsushima for all the opposite reasons. I think it has a really good narrative that echoes, Kurosawa and his work, but it still manages to stay unique and be something new. And, we haven't really had any good samurai games in a long time, and this killed it. It's one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. Every still image is a screenshot, and like I said, the narrative's great, the graphics are great, but that doesn't even matter because the gameplay is just so fine. It's so fluid and smooth. I've never played a game or a casual based game with that kind of sword combat. It's so much fun. And the ability to stealth around as much as you want to, it makes it the best Assassin's Creed game ever made. It's not even an Assassin's Creed game, but I definitely think in terms of these nominees, Ghost of Tsushima should get it. But if Doom Eternal or Final Fantasy wins, I won't be mad about it. But I just don't think The Last of Us 2 deserves it just because everyone's raving about it or it gets some things right. A game needs to have all of its parts right to be Game of the Year, in my opinion, or at least for the most part. And The Last of Us 2 is missing the one crucial link that it needs to be a complete chain. So I don't think it's deserving.
Okay, well, let me just write the timestamp, and then we can dive into game direction.
Yeah, which I also picked Ghost of Tsushima for.
I believe
because,
I did too. I gotta double check.
I mean, again, like I said for the last category, it's because it's like a constant Kurosawa movie, and he was one of the greatest directors to have ever lived. So the fact that they echo him and do it so well, I mean, obviously not on his level or anything, but just they do a really good job paying homage. And in terms of these nominees, again, I think it goes to Ghost.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was really close on picking Half-Life Alyx for this one. Just because, you know what? I am going with Half-Life Alyx. Yeah, Half-Life Alyx is my best game direction, and because it says awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation, and in my opinion, Ghost of Tsushima doesn't really innovate as much as Half-Life Alyx does. That's not saying that there's no innovation with Ghost of Tsushima, but to me, it felt a lot like an Assassin's Creed game. I like Assassin's Creed games. I have no problem with that. But that's why I'm giving the edge to Half-Life Alyx, because Half-Life Alyx did something incredible. They came out, and, for Valve's first VR game, they made a fucking hit. I mean, I think it has a 96 on Metacritic right now. And it was a really good game, and they did a hell of a job of it for really pushing VR into a new category, because before Half-Life Alyx it was really just a niche, and it still is a niche, but it's less of a niche because of this game, and I think they're going to change the market for VR because of what they did there. I mean, we've already seen new VR games get announced that they're making a Medal of Honor one. They're making for how many other bigger companies are getting into VR now because this game sold and made some money, and that is why I'm going with Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, I don't know. The cinematography of Tsushima is gorgeous. The voice acting is so well done. It's just, I don't know. I really feel like I'm playing a Kurosawa movie the entire time.
I agree.
So for that reason, it's just I have to give it to, because it might not be the most innovative thing, but it's just based on talent. At least this category for me, directing talent, and I think it goes to Ghost, honestly. Not to knock on these other games besides Last of Us 2, of course, but I just think it does it best.
All right, that is fair. So we are moving into Best Narrative for outstanding storytelling and narrative development in a game. For me, I went with Ghost of Tsushima here.
Mm-hmm.
That what you did
me too.
Okay.
Yeah. I know I'm voting for it a lot, but I kind of stop around this category. I think, at least, I don't know. I don't remember the rest of my votes. But if Last of Us 2 wins this category, it's a farce. I'm sorry. Any author would be able to see that this is not good storytelling here. This is literally the category about that in narrative, so there's no way. But Ghost of Tsushima, for all the reasons I've stated beforehand, yeah.
Yeah, I felt the story flowed really well. From the beginning to end, how you progress through the map in like little stages, how the side stories tied into the main story. I think overall you did a really good job. Anything else to add on that?
No, not
All right.
really. I mean, it just was a very compelling plot from beginning to end, and a main villain in Coat and Khan was fantastic, and just really made me want to get after him the entire game. And the final boss fight was extremely rewarding, and
Yes.
just all around, it was a great story.
Okay. So, best art direction for outstanding creative and or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. Now,
I lied when I said I didn't vote for Ghost of Tsushima anymore after that, because I did for this, but only because, and I did say it before, but every single time you stop riding on your horse or running around in this game, it can be a screenshot for your PS4 background. It really
that is
can.
true.
It's a constant beauty of a sight to look at, and really just for that alone has my vote.
Now, I was really, really tempted to go for The Last of Us Part 2 here because I love the animation in The Last of Us Part 2. I thought it was the best animation we've ever seen, just in game and in cutscenes as well. I thought they did a really good job of it. It looked like a movie in cutscenes. But my vote went to Ori and the Will of the Wisp. I just think the artwork of this game, the art style, the whole entire just art direction of this game as a whole is incredible. I mean, if you haven't played an Ori game, it's more of like a side scroller, but everything in the background is always moving, and it just feels like so realistic. Like how you'll be walking, you'll see a spider moving in the background, and even though you can't interact with that spider's not going to come fight you because it's in the background. It's still there moving around, and just the art direction of that game was incredible.
I don't know if this counts as art direction, but another thing for Ghost is that how there, I guess it would, how there's no like compass at the top of your screen or no mini map or anything. You have to have the wind actually guide you,
Yeah,
and that's killer. Honestly,
it is.
it adds another layer of immersion, and I really get sucked into the game because I never really have to open up a menu compared to other titles.
Yeah,
So
and there's nothing really hogging up your screen either.
yeah, no,
Okay,
not at all.
so score and music for outstanding music, inclusive of score, original song, or licensed soundtrack. I went with Doom Eternal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean
think we
that.
need to explain much on that.
Yeah, no, Mick
Incredible job by
Gordon.
Mick Gordon.
Yeah, absolute
Great
legend.
soundtrack.
Ab-
I don't think. I mean, I liked the soundtrack of The Last of Us Part 2. I love the
It was
guitar. That was like one
okay.
of my favorite like sections, just like the little guitar bits of that game. That was always cool to me, and just like some of the ambient sound in that game was really nice as well. But for the actual score and music, nothing is competing with Doom Eternal.
Yeah, no, not on here. I mean, Mick Gordon just knocked it out of the park.
Yes.
It's fucking metal, man.
And for audio design, once again, I went with Doom Eternal. I feel like those are kind of too similar of a category for me.
I don't know.
So I kind of
I
combined
think,
those when I did mine.
well, audio design is just like sound effects,
Yeah.
way more. I think it's also, you know, in part adding to the immersion, like which sound design makes you feel most like you're in the game itself.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I picked Resident Evil 3.
Okay.
Because
That's
I
fair.
absolutely adored this game, and playing it with headphones on is quite the experience.
Yeah.
Hearing Nemesis boot stomps coming up behind you is
Oh,
pretty
dude, you're giving me
exhilarating.
flashbacks to RE2.
And this game was just incredible. For those who don't know, I did beat this game 13 times, pretty much all back to back, and I just think, you know, from the gun sounds to even just everybody walking on the ground, everything just sounds good. I don't know. And then especially just during those chases, it's fantastic. Especially with the music looped in with all of it. But I just love RE3 Remake. And I do think it's better than RE2 Remake. So,
Yes.
I know I'll get strung up for that, but I don't really care.
So up next we have best performance. Now here I gave it to Ashley Johnson because I think just as a character, I liked Ellie more than Abby, and that's
Well, yeah.
But honestly, I hope Laura Bailey wins it, just because I mean both of them had really good performances as their characters. I don't blame Laura. I thought Laura Bailey.
You
did
were singing a very different tune when we were playing this game when it came out. That's
Oh,
all
I
I
did
need.
not enjoy playing her at all. Don't get me wrong, but her actual character voice acting was a phenomenal job, just as good as Ellie. I mean, I hated the sections playing as Abby,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah, that scene with
her
Owen
actual
really.
performances were not bad. They were just as good, on par with Ellie. And the reason I kind of hope she wins is just because of the amount of hate she got for something that wasn't her fault. I mean, she did not write the character. She just played a role,
No,
and she did a good job playing her role.
I don't know. Maybe.
But
I hate the character so much. I'm kind of biased. There's no way I could
that's
ever
a
vote
lot of
for her.
people, I think. That's,
So I just went with Daisuke Suji. Yeah, Daisuke Suji. Yeah,
yes.
there you go. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit tired today, but I hope I pronounced it right as Jin Sakai. Yeah, I mean, absolutely phenomenal job. I didn't use his voice. I used the Japanese voice actor, but he did the mocap still, and he did a fantastic job, especially in the up close cutscenes with him and his uncle, or him and the Khan, or him and his
Yes.
uncle and the Khan. You know, it gets very emotional. Again, just adds to the compelling nature of the narrative, and he did a good job. I might do a run through with his voice. Maybe one day. I just like with the Japanese voice acting because I'm pretty sure the years 1273 or 1274, somewhere around there, no one was speaking English, so
Okay.
don't want to hear it.
So up next is Games for Impact. And I'm not sure if you played any of these games, did you?
Yeah, I didn't vote on this one because
Okay.
I haven't played any of
Yeah,
these.
I played only one on this list, which was Tell Me Why. It was a Don't Nod game, so very similar to Life is Strange if you've ever played those games. I enjoyed it a lot because I like those kind of games. Um, I mean, yeah, it had a good meaning behind it, but I don't know how I can really compare it to the other games because I didn't play the other games in this choice, in this category here. And, yeah, that's all I gotta say about it. But Tell
Yeah,
Me Why was my vote here.
I got nothing to say. I mean, they
Alright,
all
that's
look
fair.
cool judging by these cover images, but I don't know.
Okay, so up next is Best Ongoing.
All
What
right.
did you do here?
I voted for No Man's Sky, and here's why. I went to the midnight release of this game, the only midnight release I've ever been to. Got my copy of the limited edition for PS4. Went home, installed it, played it, had a great first hour and a half. Loved the game, thought it was everything I thought it was going to be. But I only left the first planet that you start on. And then the next day I play it and I realize it's dog shit. And how I've been watching trailers for this game every week for the past 4 or 5 years, waiting for it to come out, and it's nothing as they said it was going to be. I think it was Game Informer. I could be wrong about that, but they had an interview with Sean Murray. It was like 101 questions, and about half of the questions were things that might be added into the game, and he said like yes to all of them, and none of them ended up being in the game. A lot of them are in there now, but I know you still can't land on an asteroid, and that was one that was promised that I was really hoping for. But
Yeah.
whatever, they have come a super long way from that. They have released constant updates that have expanded the nature and the overall focus of the game. There's so much more you can do now, like it was advertised as back in what 2014 or whatever, and they have released it all for free, as they should. But you know, they should also be recognized for that because they've stuck with it, even though it was, to be blunt, a massive failure at launch, and now it's an incredible game. So I think they deserve the award for that.
Okay. For my best ongoing, I went with Destiny 2. They've been killing it recently with all the expansions coming out. This game, I mean, it's grown a lot since the launch. They've made it free to play, then started doing paid expansions for it, and they've just been killing it. And I agree with everything you said on No Man's Sky, but I gave No Man's Sky in a category later for a very similar kind of topic, which I'll dive into later. So, if that is all I gotta say, let's move into Best Indie.
And I did not play any of these either, so I did not vote.
I didn't either. But I put my vote in for Hades because I haven't seen one negative thing on Hades. My
Yeah, I've
timeline
heard it's very
was
good.
just filled with positive things about Hades, and I do want to play it eventually. But I've just been too busy to go drop, I
Yeah,
think, $30 on this game because
I
it's
don't even know
definitely
what
not
type of
up my
game
alley.
it is.
But it's something I would like to try eventually. But
I might look at it, but again, I have no idea what genre it's even in. So
yeah, it's like I don't want to say Diablo because it's not like Diablo, but it's similar in a way.
What
But
is it, turn-based or something?
no, it's not turn based.
Oh,
But
then I
it's
might.
I don't know. So let's
Best
move
mobile
into
game.
best mobile.
Yeah. Well, no one really cares about mobile
Yeah,
games.
I gave the vote to Among Us just because.
Yeah, it's Among Us. It's
I
fun.
mean, yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't think we have to
what else are
add
you
much to
gonna do?
that. They've been killing it.
I'll tell you, it's either gonna be that, Call of Duty Mobile, or Genshin Impact. The other two are just there to
Yeah, they're
fill up
there
the
to be there.
spots.
They're there for the
Yeah,
ride. Okay,
pretty much.
best community support. Best community support, and I went with No Man's Sky,
No Man's Sky. It's
and
funny, I went
for
with
pretty
Destiny
much
2
everything
for
you
this
just said
one.
about how
Yeah,
they've really changed the game. I mean, I bought it on launch as well. I had a pre-order in, got it. It came up at 12. I played the game for an hour, and I just did not like it. Got a refund on Steam because I was under the 2 hours, and that was it. And I haven't gone back to it, and I know I should go back to it because they have really fixed the game. It's made a complete 180, and but that was
you
my
should
vote
go back
there.
into it. Yeah, I vote for Destiny 2 for this category for all the reasons you said in the last one.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, they have great, first of all, they have great customer support if you ever need to get in touch with them. Um, Two, well, in terms of Destiny, I don't know outside of that
yeah,
if they have good customer support, but if you have a Destiny problem, they'll be able to help you. They just do a lot of community events. They keep updating the game, like you said, with expansions that are good. It's not just they're there to pad the game; they're
yeah.
actually good. They provide way more lore and gameplay elements, and yeah, Bungie has just been killing it since 2001. So I don't see why they would stop now.
I agree. Um, okay. Up
And then
next,
best VR and AR.
yeah. I went with Half-Life Alex here. I don't
I
think.
did too. But I feel like, well, I might cancel my vote because I feel like the Star Wars Squadrons in VR is something really to behold. I think that's the entire reason to play that game. After playing it so much without a VR headset, I think that you really need one to experience the full scope of what that game has to offer. So I'm actually going to switch
Yeah,
my
but the
vote
thing with it,
from id show to
thing
Star
about their
Wars Squad.
VR, I felt like it was just too much of a hey, we're gonna throw on VR. Like they didn't really build it for VR. Like I think even when you're in VR, it's just to look around. I mean, it's not like you can actually like go move around with your hands and go touch different things in the cockpit. I
Fair
mean,
enough, but it's still fun as hell to be VR in an X-wing because that I
yeah,
did
I
do with
mean,
Battlefront 1 on PSVR and that was awesome. So,
yeah,
for
and I
me
mean
as a
another
Star Wars nerd, definitely has to go to that.
yeah, and another one that was really good as well is Saints and Sinners. I know a lot of people like that. I
Yeah,
haven't got to play it yet, but I know a
neither have
lot of
I.
people like that, and it's on my Steam wish list, so I'll check it out eventually. But on that note, we are going into innovation and accessibility.
Yeah,
And
I went with AC Valhalla for one reason and one reason only. As I was telling Frank here before the show, I don't know why it's in accessibility options and they actually discourage you from enabling it, which is beyond silly because it was in every mainline release up until Origins. One-shot assassinations, they brought it back. You know, shocking, right? That in a game called Assassin's Creed, you'll be able to
now
assassinate
you want to know
people.
something I discovered is that
What's
you
that?
can't do the one-hit assassination on the zealots. I don't know if you've unlocked the
Yeah, no, you
zealots.
can't. Yeah, I
That's
have. You can't do
it's
it.
the stupidest thing ever. I don't understand. I
It
snuck
is.
up behind one, ready to assassinate him. It's like, oh nope, you can't do that.
Yep, because you know, in real life, if someone's bigger than you, that knife in your hand is not going to touch them. That's just how it works. If someone's taller than you or
Yes,
wider than
you
you,
can't jump.
if you try and put a knife in them, you know, it's just not going to kill them. Like, even if you stick it in, if you put it in their brain, it's not going to do anything. You're going to have to do it again because they have a health bar.
Yeah. Let me just say how
And
much I hate like the level gating in it. Like how in some of these lower areas there'll be like a boss fight. And it's like, oh, you gotta be level 150, so then you gotta come back later in the game just to go do this boss fight, and it's like, I don't know.
yeah,
But
no, that is very annoying. And I don't know. I like how they finally brought it back for most enemies, and
yeah,
for that alone, it gets my vote because again, Last of Us 2, which is what I know you voted for, definitely has the best overall accessibility options wise. And if I wasn't mad at them, I'd probably vote for that. But out of spite and because they brought back one-shot assassinations, I'll vote for Valhalla.
yeah.
That's my pick.
As you said, I went with The Last of Us Part Two, and I did that just because they had the most accessibility settings I think any game has ever had.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
I mean, obviously, I didn't
They'll win.
use any of the settings, but a lot of people were able to play this game who normally wouldn't have been able to play it. I mean, just diving through that menu, just going past some of the options on there, helping people who have vision issues or people who have deformity in their hands or something. And there's just so many options in there that make it playable for people who normally wouldn't have been able to. And I think that's just incredible. And that is why they got my vote there. And I think they'll
Yeah,
win this easily. I don't think it'll
they
be
will.
any shot. I mean, like Grounded, yeah, they turned off spiders in that game. That's the only reason that there. Hyperdot, I personally never even heard of Hyperdot. I'm sorry. And Legion, fuck. I don't. I mean, did Legion even have that many accessibility things like that? Valhalla didn't.
I mean, they had a quit out button. It was pretty nice.
What button?
The quit out button to the main menu, then the other quit out button to the dashboard or desktop, depending on the platform that you're on.
Okay. So up next is action.
So I
what you
will
do?
say that Doom Eternal's gonna win this,
That was my vote.
but I didn't vote for it because Nioh 2 is such a badass game. Again, if you've been following the show, I've mentioned Souls quite a bit. In fact, I have this episode already with Demon Souls. But Nioh 2 is a Souls-like, but it definitely, if you play it like Dark Souls, you're gonna get your ass handed to you. It's very different from anything that From Software has made. Bloodborne, Sekiro, any of that stuff. It's way different. I mean, stylistically, it definitely draws inspiration from Soulsborne, but it has such a unique gameplay style, especially with the 4 different stances that you can use. It pretty much changes up the entire pace of the game depending on the type of weapon and stance that you use, and the bosses are extremely difficult and definitely can be rage-inducing, but I found, at least for myself, the first boss of this game, I was stuck on them for 2 hours because I just could not figure them out. But I didn't even yell once. I didn't get mad because every time I died, I could trace it back to something that I did wrong personally. It wasn't the game's fault. By the time I actually beat the boss, I fought him flawlessly and didn't get touched once. It was like I had it down to an absolute science. And just Nioh 2 is an incredibly compelling experience, especially since I didn't really like the first one because I thought the first one had a lot of unfair bullshit, which is why I love Souls so much, is because even though a lot of it's super difficult, it's extremely fair for the most part. And just I found the first Nioh to not be like that at all, but Nioh 2 definitely made a significant improvement in that regard. And yeah, I think it's an amazing game, and I think it deserves to win, even though I know it won't, because Doom Eternal is played by way more people.
Yeah. But on that note, we are moving into best action and adventure. I went with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order here. I really
As
like that
did I.
game. I don't think it's gonna win just due to the fact that it technically came out last year, and just because it missed the deadline, it get pushed into this year, which screws it
stupid. It
because
came out
you're
in
not in that
November.
honeymoon phase anymore. So
Yeah. Came out over a year ago.
yeah. I mean, I hope Fallen Order wins, but I don't even think it will come close. The Last of Us is going to get a ton of votes just because a lot of people love that game. Ghost of Tsushima is going to get a lot of votes. Spider-Man's going to get a lot of votes just because people just played it recently. Even though I don't think it'll win because I think it's still too new to win. But
AC will get votes because it's Assassin's Creed.
Exactly. So, I mean,
I don't know. Again, with Fallen Order, the story was very cliche and just kind of basic.
but dude,
Star
I
Wars
was fine
stuff.
with that because we hadn't
But
had
the
a
game
good
was so
single-player
great.
Star Wars game in
Yeah,
so
no, I
long,
know.
and it finally was fucking good. I was so
Believe me,
happy with it, even though it was a cliche.
Buddy, believe me, I platinumed this game under a week from it coming out.
Yeah.
I adored Fallen Order, and I absolutely love this game, but the story did kind of make me feel.
I mean,
like
I agree.
want
We
more.
don't need to dive into the story for spoiler point of view. Anyone who didn't play it, go play that game. But yeah,
The
there's
characters were pretty subpar, especially
Yeah.
Seer really bothered
Yeah.
me. But and Cal felt kind of flat in some places, but I hope that changes in the sequel, and I'm thinking it will if I'm right about
I
a
hope it
certain
does, bro.
one.
I mean, don't fuck
I
up the
mean-
sequel. That's my only. Please, EA, just don't fuck it up.
Just leave Respawn alone.
I
Just
trust
leave them
Respawn to
alone.
do it. I mean,
Let them do what they have to do. Just don't talk to them. Don't call them. Give them the money to make the game. Just leave it alone. That's all you have to do, EA. But now that it's a big success, they might be more hands-on. I hope not, though, because then it will
hopefully.
be terrible. But yeah, no, Fallen Order definitely deserves it, but it probably won't win it again.
Okay, RPG. I gave it to Wasteland 3 just because even though I haven't played it yet, everyone I've talked to has really liked this game. It's from the
Oh,
original
come
Fallout
on.
guys worked on it. It's pretty much the closest we're ever going to get to that style Fallout game again, probably. And I know a lot of people liked it. Even though I don't think it's going to win, I think Persona 5 Royal definitely had a bigger fan base. So I think that will be the winner personally. But what do you
I
think,
don't
Mike?
think so. Well, I think what I vote for will win personally, Final Fantasy VII Remake, because again, I just started playing it again last night, and it's just so much fun. The cutscenes are high quality, the story and narrative is just as good as it ever was.
I can't wait to
Um,
play it. I have it installed on the PS5. I'm just like holding out for the
play
60
it,
FPS
play
patch
it
that
now.
might come.
Screw the
Dude,
60
I got it
FPS,
in.
man. You don't
I
need
got it
it.
for free from a promotion that they were doing for the game. You know, I got a few
I
things for free,
remember.
and
Yeah,
I
no, I
got it, and
remember.
it was like a month after the game came out. So like the hype was already dying out. So I was like, all right, you know, what? I'll just wait because I've never played a Final Fantasy game before. So I was like, I could just wait. I'll get the 60 F patch because I know people are saying online how much better this game would feel at 60. I wasn't in a rush. I had other games coming out at the time. So I was cool with that. I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited for an update on backwards compatibility and if games were getting next gen upgrades. And Sony was completely quiet the whole summer. And then by the time I was in August, I was like, all right, I'll just gotta wait at this point. You know, I gotta see what happens at launch. And now we're at the launch of the PS5, and well, there was really nothing that came with it. And I still feel like, I mean, that game should easily be able to run at 60, right? I mean, it's not.
Well, it is a really good looking
It is a
game,
really
but
good
I
looking
think
game,
it
but if
should
it was
be
able to
able
run
to.
at 30
Yeah,
at
no, you're
4K on
right.
the PS4 Pro, it should easily be able
But
to do
again,
60.
it doesn't. Yeah, it should be able to, and I would appreciate a patch. But honestly, it doesn't really detract from my enjoyment of the game whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think it's a phenomenal experience. The combat is beyond fun. The narrative again is compelling and it's keeping me engaged from what I've played so far, especially the boss fights and how unique they are compared to a lot of things that we have now. I'd say it's fantastic, but I really was torn between this and Yakuza Like a Dragon. That game is also incredible for pretty much the exact same reasons, just like I like the fantastical element of Final Fantasy more than I mean there are some fantastical elements in Yakuza, but I don't know, Final Fantasy just kind of goes balls to the wall with, the world-ending plot and all of that sort of stuff. So I really enjoy it, and I think it'll probably win, to be honest, because Final Fantasy is a ginormous franchise, and rightfully so. I mean, they keep putting out great games. I started with 15, and I absolutely adored that game just like I do 7. I'm very excited for 16, which will also be a PS5 timed exclusive, which is interesting.
Yeah. Okay,
But I guess
so.
if you've said your piece on Wasteland 3, we can move on to
Yeah.
best fighting,
Now, fighting,
which,
I've never played any of these games, so I am just
okay,
going
well
with what
then,
Mike did. I trust his word.
Mortal Kombat 11. I don't know why they have the Ultimate subtitle here, but whatever. You can count the Ultimate Edition, I guess. It doesn't matter. The base game would have, again, annihilated this category. Best fighting game ever made, graphically, narrative-wise, gameplay-wise. And if you're a beginner, again, I've said all this stuff on the podcast before. If you want to hear my specifics, go to the top 10 games of the generation we did. MK11 was on my list. Just by far the most innovative fighting game for this genre. It definitely just adds all the features we've wanted as fans, and the fact that it runs at 4K 60 is another great thing. I think it might run at 120 now in some areas on Series X. I know it has gotten enhancements, and the roster they've added now with the second combat pack, we have Rain and Melina again, and on top of the loaded roster we had before. Um, it is just a fantastic experience. And again, if you're a newcomer, there's the most in-depth tutorial system that they've ever had in Mortal Kombat, and they show you move by move what you need to do for certain combos, even down to specific characters and the character unique combos. I mean, so if you're a beginner or a master, you'll fall in love with this game. And with the loot and the crypt, there's so much replayability to try and get all the heads in the shrine to open up the door to Shang Tsung's throne room, and there's just so much you can do in the game, from the story to the DLC for the story to the multiplayer modes to the towers. It is just a game loaded with content, and good content at that, and I just think it's pretty much outclasses all of the fighting games on here. I mean, the only one that even stands on a leg is Street Fighter V Champion Edition, but I remember how that game launched and it was in a pitiful state. But MK11 has pretty much been solid the whole time, apart from a little microtransaction controversy when it first launched. That's really only cosmetic stuff and doesn't affect me because I never bought into any of it. So yeah, MK11 for sure.
Okay, well, best family game. I mean, I
The
went
fact
with
that
Minecraft
Crash 4
Dungeons.
is on here, dude, the fact that Crash 4 is on here is fantastic, and that's why I voted for it. Because it is a very difficult platformer. I love it. I think it's stylistically beautiful. I think it's a lot of fun gameplay-wise. I haven't beaten it. I haven't played it in quite a while, but I still intend to finish it because, like I was saying, it's just a great amount of fun. Haven't really played any of these other games besides Minecraft Dungeons actually, and it's okay. It's like Minecraft Diablo, but
Yeah.
less hardcore, obviously. And I don't know. I just found that out of these games, Crash 4 is probably the most quality besides maybe Paper Mario because I haven't played that.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, Dungeons was the only one I played here. I mean, I enjoyed Dungeons. I played it because it was on Game Pass. If I had to pay for it, I wouldn't have paid it. Played it.
yeah, I wouldn't pay for it
Um,
either.
I
I'd get the
considered
Game
paying
Pass.
for the DLC though because I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I expected. It was pretty fun. I played it solo. I didn't play it with any friends, but I mean, it was pretty enjoyable. I'll probably check out the DLC eventually. One thing I wish Game Pass did was just give like old DLC for free, and I know
Yeah,
that they want it, but I mean that 10% discount is nice, but at this point, like I would be able to wait like 2 years down the line and just get the DLC for free. I prefer that. Will I pay the few dollars for the DLC eventually? Yeah, probably. But in my opinion, Animal Crossing will probably win this category, just because it's the biggest game here, in my opinion. So, I mean, Animal Crossing sold massive amount of games.
yeah.
So, but
Nintendo usually always has the family category locked and secured.
yeah. So
But
for
when it comes to sim and strategy, I will
yes,
say this right now: Flight Simulator. I don't know why I slurred that there. Is not a strategy game. I don't know why it's
but
on
it's a
here.
simulator.
It's a simulator, but
They
it,
combined two categories that shouldn't have been combined.
yeah, it shouldn't have been because that's the only
I mean, yeah,
simulator
it's
on
the
here in
only
a
sim in here,
category of
but
strategy
it's the
game.
best game out of all these games. So I voted for it.
No, I disagree.
Ugh.
Well, it might be better than Chimera Squad because that's kind of like a standalone expansion. Might be better than Gears Tactics because that's a new IP. I still think it's pretty good though. I haven't played it that much though. Desperados 3 I wanted to get into, but I haven't been able to play it yet, so I can't judge it. And I haven't played the game I voted for, but I
Crusader
have
Kings.
played the
I
yes, but
know
I
a
have
lot of
played
people
its
loved it. I haven't
predecessor.
installed. I'm waiting to play it. I have a backlog.
I played Crusader Kings 2. So, and I love that game. So I heard Crusader Kings thinks it's pretty much everything that 2 was, but better. And I've seen that pretty much all across the board. And for that reason, it kind of has my vote. Because I assume it's
Yeah,
just Crusader Kings 2, but modernized. And that's fantastic.
I voted for Flight Sim because once again I didn't hear a single bad thing about this game. I mean, I'm not into simulator games, and I do think these should have been separate categories. And they just couldn't really find any other simulator games. I mean, there's are a few racing sims that came out this year, so they probably should have just combined those into a sim category, maybe. But I don't know. I gave my vote to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Um,
Yeah, that's definitely worth
I
it.
mean, I think it'll win because the amount of critics who really love this game. I mean, a lot of critics love Crusader Kings 3. I mean, if we're going based on Metacritic scores, which are not everything in the world, I mean, can't trust Metacritic for everything, but I want to say Flight Sim got like a 94. I think Crusader Kings had like a high 8, high 80. So, both two incredible games. One of those two will win. Um, but yeah, XCOM is definitely not winning. So,
Damn.
on that note,
XCOM's good, though. XCOM's really good.
yes. But on that note, best sports and racing game, I went with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2, and I
How
think
could you not?
yeah,
How could you not?
it has an easy win. I mean, NBA 2K was a joke as usual. Not a joke, but the same game that
No, it
it's
is a
been.
joke. No, it is a joke. You used the right word the first time.
And same for
It's an
FIFA.
absolute joke.
FIFA
And
is the same game it's always been. They don't really change
yep,
anything to
and
the
they
games. F1 and Dirt 5, both from Codemasters. Codemasters is a great studio. I know a lot of people love Dirt 5,
Dirt
but
5
I didn't
might
play it
win, but
personally, and Tony
yeah.
Hawk Pro Skater was a
Well, I'll
phenomenal
say
game.
this: FIFA and NBA keep innovating on one thing, and that's how to take children's money from their parents'
I
credit
mean, dude, at
cards.
least they're not as bad as Madden. They're not as
I
bad as
don't know.
Madden.
2K is pretty bad. They have a legitimate casino built into their game with slot machines to
And
reopen
oh, I
open
forgot
all
2K has ads, and they had to get rid of them
Yeah,
because the SSDs got too fast. But on the previous gen version of this 2K, they had ads loading into the game. So you'd be loading into a game that you paid $60 for, and you'd be loading into your match, and then instead of seeing like the other person's team, an ad pops up from like Gatorade or something, and they're making money off that. And they usually have like a Gatorade ad right there as you're loading it. That's
yeah.
just ridiculous.
No, they have well, at least in EA's case, in UFC 4, they put commercials in before fights, and they really use the excuse to make it seem more realistic, even though UFC 4 is as arcade as they come for
Yeah, both
MMA
companies
fans,
just
and it's a garbage game compared to 3. And a lot of people, including myself, went back to 3 from 4 because it was a terrible game, and then they put these commercials in, and then they retroactively put the commercials in 3 as well to catch people who were trying to leave. And they
oh
had to go back
ridiculous.
on all of it because people were pretty enraged, and rightfully so.
Yes.
So they had to, take all that back. But Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I reviewed it for the site. Check it out, gamepreview.com, little plug. Gave it a 9 out of 10 because it really was just at that time the most faithful remake I ever played. And then I played Mafia Remake, and that was the most faithful remake I ever played. And then I played
Did Mafia not get
Assault
nominated for any
Remake.
awards?
It didn't, which is complete
Yeah, see,
bullshit.
I had a feeling that it didn't sell as good as. I mean, I loved it. You loved it. A
Oh
lot
yeah,
of people loved it, but it didn't sell that good. I remember looking at the September sale report, and it did not sell good.
and that's Mafia 3's fault. I don't care what
Yeah.
anyone says. It's Mafia 3's
I hope
fault
they
because
do make a Mafia 4, because if they make a
they
Mafia
should.
4 like Mafia 1, fucking incredible.
If the rumors are accurate, and it did take place in a Godfather 2 Vegas type setting deal with
Yeah,
the Mafia
dude.
1 and 2 vibe, it would be incredible. I mean, they just bring the mechanics over from Mafia Remake and you're set. Maybe make the shooting a bit more accurate, but other than that, you don't gotta change much. Um, the fact that it wasn't, yeah, I haven't seen it at all on here, but it wouldn't fit in this category. But Tony Hawk definitely takes it home. I mean,
Okay.
just beautiful game.
I agree. So up next is best multiplayer. I mean, I didn't really play any of these games a lot. I gave my vote to Warzone just because I know a lot of people in the Call of Duty community enjoyed Warzone a lot. But
Well,
I'll
I
be
hate
honest, I didn't play
Warzone,
much
so
of Warzone.
yeah, I hate Warzone. I think it's a pretty shitty battle royale compared to what's out there. I think honestly the best battle royale. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I think the best battle royale out there is Apex Legends at the moment. At least, I mean, it's the only one that I can actually go and sit down and play. The others just kind of bore me to death at this point because my first one was H1Z1. I probably enjoyed that one the most while it was active, and then I moved on to PUBG and then Fortnite for a little while, and then so on and so forth with
Yeah,
all the other ones that came out.
I
But I'm
agree. I
just
mean, I played a
looking
lot of PUBG. That was probably my biggest battle royale.
yeah,
So by the
I,
time Warzone came around, I was pretty much done.
yeah, I'm just completely sick of battle royale at this point. So the only ones out of here besides Warzone that I played are Among Us and Valorant. And Valorant just takes CS:GO and combines with League of Legends. I don't really think that's anything new. It's fun. It can be addicting, but I don't think it really deserves to win. Among Us really brought a lot of people together during the pandemic. Really, just I know a lot of people actually made friends
Hey,
off of this game,
I'm changing my vote. You've Among Us.
and
I
it,
can't.
it's just been an all-around great time. Incredibly cheap, if not free, depending on the platform of your
Yeah.
choice. And
And you got to remember
it's
that this game came out 2 years ago, right? And by a
was
small group of
cross-play.
people. They thought they hit their peak a while ago, and then Twitch just makes this game explode once again, and people see how much fun it is, and we get to the point where politicians are playing it to benefit for their campaigns. But on that note, I don't need AOC coming after me.
Oh, like what would she do? She's not one of the serious ones you gotta watch out for. Well, I don't know. I don't want to talk
I don't
politics.
I think she's chill. I don't think she would attack us. I don't think we're gonna get kidnapped when we're leaving our house.
She's done some very questionable things, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But content creator of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like content creator is kind of a weird one because it's
Yeah,
like
this isn't really,
And even
gaming.
like I don't want to just sit here and judge people. Like I
Yeah,
don't.
no, I don't want
I'm
to
just
judge
gonna.
people.
I voted for the person I watch the most content of. Nothing against any of these other people. I mean, I watch other content creators more. Like Mr. Matty Plays. If he was on here, I'd be voting for him. If ACG was on here, I'd be voting for him because those are two content creators I probably watch the most of. But out of these five, Alana Pierce is who I voted for because I watch her the most out of those five.
Yeah, I mean, I've known her since her days at GameSpot. I've seen her, there and then at Funhouse, and then now she's doing her own thing.
Sony Santa
And
Monica,
now she
which
got
is
a job at
awesome.
Sony Santa Monica, which is absolutely incredible. So I mean, she's thriving, killing it. So I voted for her. I mean, I'm aware of Valkyrie and Tim, but I don't really know the other two people, and I don't know Valkyrie or Tim that well to vote for them. And again, I don't like judging people either,
Yeah,
so I just gave
it's
it to
I
Alana.
feel weird. So back
Yeah.
to judging games. Our final category, I think, that we'll be doing is best to beat game because I don't think we're
Yeah,
going to touch
'cause the rest of
esports
these are
because
esports.
it's kind of similar as the content creator, just that we know less about it and we're just doing it based off name. Never mind actually
Yeah.
watching them.
Yeah.
So for best to beat,
I vote for Mortal Shell
okay,
first.
I voted for
Because,
Phasmophobia. So you go into Mortal Shell and tell us why.
well, Mortal Shell is obviously, again, derivative of Souls, heavily
Yes.
so. But the developers have fully admitted that. They're okay with it. And not just Dark Souls, but Demon Souls too. They've acknowledged that they took inspiration from both game series. And for people that are on the outside of the Souls kind of just community, Demon Souls and Dark Souls play very, very differently. They are not similar games in that regard. I mean, they kind of are, but there are some very key differences there. And Mortal Shell kind of just seems to blend Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and then its own unique gameplay style all into one. And it has its own unique lore and all of this. I don't even know how to really describe it. It just has the feeling of Souls without being Souls. It's something new, new lore, new bosses, new environments. Even the item descriptions looks like it's straight out of Dark Souls, but it's all new items, all new item descriptions. And it's nothing we've ever seen before, but all in that style that we love. And it's kind of like an unofficial love letter to the Souls series, and I really appreciate everything they tried with it. There's a lot of unique mechanics, especially the shell mechanic, and that's how you essentially play different classes. I like that a lot, and I definitely need to get back into it and play more because I still haven't beaten it, but I definitely want to finish it and possibly even platinum it. It's really good, and I think they did a fantastic job with it.
Yes. So I went with Phasmophobia. I feel like in recent years there has not been enough multiplayer horror games. Um, and they did this one really fucking well. One memorable moment from it was me and two people from work and one other guy. We were playing it, right? And I'm in the garage. We're trying to find a ghost. It's a ghost hunting game. So I'm in the garage, waiting for the ghost, and the door behind me slams shut, locks, and then you start getting like not radioactive, but you start getting like interference stuff on your radio and stuff in the
Yeah,
room I'm in,
static.
and I got one friend is in the van like watching on my camera because you can like pull out a camera and they can watch in the van. So since they can't, well, they got one friend on the other side of the door waiting to unlock it so they can get me out, and then one person in the van watching on my camera, and then you just see in a pitch black room a face spawn in and start coming at you. And I mean, it's not the biggest budget game. It doesn't look like the most, like, if they had it looking like Resident Evil 7 or something, this would be a lot more scarier. But it's still so fucking scary just seeing that ghost coming at you with a knife and knowing there's nothing you can do. And you can play this game in VR as well. And I mean, I just played it normally because I could not imagine doing that in VR. But I just thought for first game they did a really good job of it, and they're continuing to support it and adding like new maps and stuff, and a lot of fun. So that is why I voted for Phasmophobia.
Yeah, I haven't played it myself, but it sounds like a lot of fun.
Okay, well, thank you guys for watching. That is the rest of the nominees. We're not going to be diving into esports or anything like that because honestly we don't know enough about that. We will be live for the Game Awards show if you want to watch it with us. I mean, we'll probably just for the main show. We're not going to touch the pre-show. We might talk about it a little bit, but more than
Depends
likely
what
it'll just
they
be the
announce,
main show
really.
and a little bit after the show, summarizing some announcements and talking about it and discussing it. And if anything noticeable happens in the pre-show, we'll just talk about it during one of the commercial breaks because there'll be a few of those. And yeah, I mean, you'll find out a more definite answer about where we'll be live and all that information and what time and all that during next week's episode because that will be out on about the 8th or the 9th. So you'll find out right before if you do want to join us. But if not, hope you have a good one and take it easy, guys. See ya.
Later, everyone.